Since you have started to sail the sea, go on as you wish in every direction. Now is the time to reveal. I have already said that when this Redeemer cohabits with the vessel that I mentioned, he infuses his spirit there. Okay, that's getting back. That's commenting on the what's it called again? The brother-in-law, the Redeemer, right? Mm-hmm. The vessel is the wife of his brother. Right. Interesting word. Mm-hmm. Vessel, yeah. Mm-hmm. He infuses his spirit there, adhering it to that vessel, and nothing is lost, not even the breath of the mouth. That is fittingly so. Old man, if you speak and reveal, speak without fear. In other words, that was the beginning, and this is what the conversation was about. And he's like, I'm about to go even further, because I started, I can't stop myself now. Okay, note 147, Zev.
When the deceased husband's brother marries the widow and unites with her, he infuses some of his spirit into her. Of nothing being lost, see above notes.
Okay, let's continue. When other people... When other people of the world, when they depart, when they die, we know that each one leaves his spirit in his wife he had, having infused the spirit there. So now we're going to talk about other issues. We talked about this last week, but we didn't get to it. I said we were going to talk about it, and we didn't do as much as I thought we would. How unusual. So we're talking about second husbands and third husbands having to deal with the deceased prior husband's spirit competing with them. And that somehow it's kind of like a horror movie. And we'll see. Okay. There's a horror movie written based on the Zohar, for sure.
Dawn of the Dead.
Well, we'll see. Let's see what it says. So when the person dies, he leaves his spirit in the woman. Well, what becomes of that spirit? In other words, it's still like connected to her. And if she marries, what happens then? Seeing that another man cohabits with her. For spirit to coexist with spirit is impossible. Like the other day, I was at doing something with musicians, and I was asked one piano player to say, "Why don't you play piano together with the other piano player?" And it's like, they're like, no, that's not how it works. It's one, spirit doesn't work with spirit. Maybe the spirit works with another level, but not with the same, because it's like the husband. There's only one husband, not even at a time, according to the Zohar. There's only one.
And so that means that
ideally.
So that means that the woman doesn't have a spirit.
No, the woman has her own spirit,
but
she has an additional spirit from the husband.
But they don't coexist.
Well, the woman's spirit is a different spirit. The woman's a feminine spirit.
Okay, so that's why it's like a piano and a drum set or something.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Well, I wish this was just academic, but in my case, it almost is actual. So go on.
Okay. So,
You're a man and a piano player?
No.
So she marries.
Pianos have nothing to
so
do
the
with
problem
my
is the current husband's going to have an issue with the spirit of the deceased husband. For look, this one is now cohabiting with her, infusing her with spirit, and that first one who has departed infused her with spirit. The first one had children, so the current one is not a redeemer. Now, they're talking about a regular case. We're not talking about the earlier case of the woman who died childless. We're talking about a woman who had children. With the husband dies, she remarries, and there's a spiritual competition going on over her between the spirit of the first dead husband and the current husband. The spirit left by the first one in the vessel and the spirit infused by this one. Surely the two of them cannot exist as one. If we say it is lost, that is impossible. So what becomes of it? In other words, this is a problem, and the question is, how does this get resolved? Okay? So, let's see it's crazy stuff, right? So the truth is, just to give you a little background, there's a Gemara that says there's a woman called a Katlanit, which means killer. Her husbands die. So there's a debate in how many husbands have to die before a man should not marry her. 2 or 3. Okay. A black widow.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, but the Zohar is going to go much further than the Talmud. The Zohar is going to say, really, as soon as there's one dead husband, the second husband is already in trouble, potentially, because the first dead husband doesn't want him there, and he's going to do things to mess him up.
Well, this
Let's
is
see.
similar to the Onan situation,
That,
right? Because the wife had multiple husbands, all of which died childless, and Onan doesn't actually want to
yeah,
do that.
Yehuda doesn't. You mean Yehuda doesn't want to give Shelah, his youngest son,
Right.
because of the death of his 2 earlier sons. He did. In other words, Aaron Onan died being married to the same woman. So again, that could be the similar concept. Yeah, good call there. Yeah. Okay. So similar. Go ahead. Read note 148.
When a man who has fathered a child dies, what happens to the part of his spirit that he infused in his wife? And if she now remarries, her new husband also infuses spirit into her. Unlike the case of levirate marriage, where the deceased husband's brother acts as a redeemer, here there is no need for a redeemer, since the deceased engendered new life, and the spirit does not need redemptive reincarnation. So how can both husbands' spirits coexist in a widow? Why does it have to be a widow? Wouldn't this also apply to a divorced woman?
You know, you're asking a very good question. I think the simple answer is the divorce is he's still alive, and presumably, at least in time, he presumably would have to want the divorce on some level for it to be, you know. So he withdrew his spirit. Yeah, he's like he took it with him. Yeah, he's still got it. It's in him exactly. Now, you'd ask a good question if the wife, forced his hand in a divorce. You know, in theory, that and he still loves her and doesn't want to be apart from her. But the presumption is a divorce usually has, you know, it's over for both of them. Although that's never necessary. It's not always the case, but okay. But that's the assumption.
The Kabbalistic meaning of a get creaseless. It cuts it.
The word for get comes from the word
Kills life.
a
whatever
division, and the Talmud says it has to be like a complete, something that really disconnects them. So, you know, he gets him. I guess in the divorce settlement, sometimes you have to leave a little bit of your soul with your ex, like that,
Or skin or blood.
but not according to the Zohar. The Zohar, your soul you take back. You know, you get that back with you.
That's all you get.
We've got a divorce attorney here, and you get your talis and tefillin. That's why they don't understand why Orthodox men. Why are they so against women wearing talis and tefillin? It's not a problem really. They're afraid that they're going to lose it in the divorce settlement. They need one thing. Tell me I'm going to get this. You know. No, that's all kidding aside. Okay, let's go on. Similarly, if she does not marry, that spirit left by her husband, what becomes of it? Okay, that's if she does remarry, it has a clash with the next husband. What if she doesn't marry? If we say it is lost, not so. All this must now be revealed. Old man, let us see what you have done and what you have gotten yourself into. Again, it's the old man talking about himself. Rise, old man, and raise your sail. Arise, old man, and humble yourself before your Lord. So it's this great expression of reveal these deep secrets, and that's kind of almost like a arrogant statement. Raise yourself and humble yourself before the Lord, and he understands that there's an inherent contradiction in any time that you reveal secrets. You're making this kind of revelation of what's not known, and on the other hand, the only way to be true to its real nature is to be a servant of God while you're doing it. Okay, let's continue. He opened saying, as a verse in the 131st chapter of Tehillim, "O God, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes raised high." King David said this because he was a supreme king, ruling over all kings east and west. Yet his heart did not haughtily deviate from the way, and he constantly humbled his heart before his Lord. When he studied Torah, he grew mighty as a lion, with his eye lowered to earth out of awe for his Lord. There's this concept in the Talmud that you held your head down. Though all of these things, anybody who's learning the Daf knows that one of the earliest kind of heroes in the Talmud, right in the beginning of Brachot, is King David. And he's given all these spiritual and supernatural powers, and he was the one who did some prayer of what we now call Tikkun Chatzos, not exactly the same, but the concept of praying at midnight and basically superhuman things of being up almost 23 hours a day somehow, some crazy, insanely intense schedule with studying and praying and humbling himself before the scholars and all this great stuff. So the Talmud is kind of riffing on the Zohar is riffing on the Talmud, kind of this praise of David. And then you have to remember, David is yes, David, yes, that's you. We've got two Davids. You have to share.
There is a line in it. There's a line in it, Rabbi, which says that nor do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me, and that's just not right. He's totally exercising himself in matters too high for him.
Well, maybe, like for example, when he still had teachers that he subserviated himself to in terms of his knowledge, he accepted that their authority, and he said, if it's beyond me, I ask them. I don't overstate my knowledge. I mean, I understand what my limits are. So, let's see what the notes. Let's finish the last line. When he studied Torah, he grew mighty as a lion. We did that. And when he walked amongst the people, he was not haughty at all. And that's one of the basic key concepts of the Torah. The Torah says that the king should write a Torah scroll for himself, and that way he won't be arrogant and he won't look down on the people. So King David embodied that. He was like the first and the last king, and even he had plenty of trouble. So we didn't have that much luck with kings. But okay, we had a few good ones, and the rest were lousy. Okay. Go ahead, Zev, 149.
The verse concludes, I do not pursue matters too great or too wondrous for me. O Hashem, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes raised high. According to rabbinic tradition, King David studied Torah every night. See Brachos 3b. Rabbi Oshia said in the name of Rabbi Acha, David said, midnight never passed me by in my sleep. Rabbi Zerah said, till midnight he used to doze like a horse, and from then on he became mighty like a lion. Rav Ashi said, till midnight he engaged in Torah, and from then on in songs and praises. But did David know the exact moment of midnight? David had a sign. For Rabbi Shimon the Chassid said there was a harp suspended above David's bed. As soon as midnight arrived, the north wind came and blew upon it, and it played by itself. He immediately arose and engaged in Torah until the break of dawn.
Great.
The description of King David as ruling over all kings east and west does not match any biblical or rabbinic portrayal of him, though it could apply to his son and successor, King Solomon. The phrase all kings east and west actually derives from Barachas 4a, following soon after the passage quoted above. where David contrasts the lazy and arrogant behavior of all kings east and west with his own virtues, such as rising at midnight to praise God.
So even though there isn't a description of King David as like Solomon is described as being like the King of Kings, what's the king in that TV series that everybody loved except for the ending?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. They were trying to. Who was going to be the king of all the unite the kingdoms, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was Solomon. David, it doesn't say that about, but it does say something else, that he was, of all of the kings in the world, he was the only one dedicated to God the way he was dedicated to God. So it's kind of a riff on that, but it's saying a little more than that. Page 53. Therefore it is written. There's that verse, right? And tell him, "Oh God, my heart is not haughty. Even though I rule over other kings of the world, nor my eyes raised high, when I stand before you delving into Torah, I do not pursue matters too great or too wondrous for me. When I walk amongst the people, in this, if this is the case with King David, how much more so with other inhabitants of the world?" So it's basically a plea for humility. Okay. So now we continue. About himself also, the old man is saying. And as for me, I'm not going to read, we're not going to stop for 150. You could look at it on your own. As for me, how humble of heart and with what downcast eyes am I before the Holy King. Far be it from me to be haughty with the holy words of Torah. Okay, so I'm very humble. Okay. He wept.
This is like the Rishus, like the cantor we'll read before.
This is how Hasidim make fun of Misnagdim. My humility is so intense. It's like they're talking about a certain rabbi, and he's like, "Psst, you forgot my humility." all these. Okay.
They have nothing but dust and ashes, Joe.
Yeah.
Look
who's nothing.
Yeah. Look who's dust and ashes.
Yeah.
My chopped liver.
Yeah. Okay. So he does the whole humility speech. Did we do? Okay, so he cried. His tears fell on his beard. He said, "Old man, feeble in strength, how beautiful the tears on your beard. As beautiful as the precious oil running down upon the beard of the fine old man Aaron. Speak your word, old man, for the holy king is here." Okay, we'll have to stop for the oil running down Aaron's beard. I think it should be an advertisement for like a beard oil.
Yeah.
Aaron's
Have a beard like the Cohen.
Bad rejuvenation.
Yeah.
Rejuvenation oil.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, why don't you read 151 as part of the advertisement?
This is Aaron, Moses' brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
Your grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa Aaron for you.
Anointing Aaron the high priest. See Psalm 133 verse 2, like precious oil on the head running down upon the beard of Aaron descending over the collar of his robes. See the description of Aaron's anointing oil.
Okay, we did a lot of stuff on that.
Yes.
The Idrot. Yeah. So, okay, he's just referencing that. We continue. Other people who have departed from the world, leaving a spirit in the vessel that they used. Getting back to this, if she marries and another comes and infuses another spirit in the vessel, what becomes of the first one, as has been said? It's just repeating the question. Come and see. How exalted are the mighty acts performed by the Holy King? Who can recount them? When the second husband comes and infuses the spirit in that vessel, the first spirit denounces this inflowing spirit, and they cannot dwell calmly together. Whoa. Therefore, a woman does not settle fittingly with her second husband. That's what it is. Because the first spirit pulsates within her, so she remembers him constantly and weeps or sighs over him, since his spirit rattles in her belly like a snake. Wow, that's pretty intense.
Interesting symbolism.
Like a snake, yeah. Denouncing the other incoming spirit. So he's becoming like not only is he making sure she cries, that she misses him, she also is belittling the new guy and trash talking him. It's like a presidential debate, and the woman, inside the woman.
It's almost like Jacob and Esau in the belly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
does this also jump back to the image of, if you want, the Nahash, who supposedly was with Eve?
Mm-hmm. According to the Medrash.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using the image of a snake here.
Yeah.
I don't see a connection.
Well, it says the snake cohabited with Eve, according to the Medrash. He didn't just convince her; he seduced her, because he wanted her. He figured if he could get her to sin, he could take her from Adam.
Right. And he could also, if you want, infuse humanity with
And
this.
and according to the Medrash and the Zohar and so on, the Kabbalah, the snake put into her a snakely type of spirit, you know. Anyway, so this snake is just, connecting. Yossi is pointing out that connection. Denouncing the other incoming. For a long time they assail one another. This one entering arouses the one who entered first. The one, meaning the new husband gets the second, the earlier husband upset. Afterwards, before keep going. The first one leaves and goes away. Oh, sometimes, eventually, the first one gives up and is like, okay, the second husband wins, and the first one leaves. Sometimes the first one repels the second one, which means the marriage doesn't work. Problem is, what if neither of those two happen? Aha.
Did you guys see the anybody? Did you see Shissel?
Yes.
Do you remember
Shtisel.
Shtisel, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scenes where the woman who has all these ex-husbands, they all get together in the kitchen and they're all talking, all the dead husbands?
Yeah.
You know.
She was the Katlanit.
And they seem. I mean, that interpretation is interesting because they all seem to get along quite well. You know.
Yeah. That wasn't playing out this
No,
little story.
It's a variation.
Well,
Yeah,
probably vis-a-vis her, they get along. They all want to drive up vis-a-vis themselves, right? Intra and inter. As between themselves, they may want to fight with each other into the scene. But with respect to the wife, they're collected in the kitchen because they're all.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's
interesting.
there.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry for the diversion.
That's a question.
That's my
Sure.
commentary.
What we're talking about here, is that the soul?
It's a lower level of soul because it's like nefesh, ruach, neshama. So this nefesh is like one of the lower levels of the soul.
When the body dies, the soul wants to go to heaven. What the hell is it doing messing around with it?
It's a good
the
question.
Body of a wife. You
Good
can't
question.
have sex with her. Or what pleasure do you have with her? Get the hell
It's
out. Go back up
unfinished
to heaven.
business.
What's the
Can't
goal?
leave.
Well, I think there's, the very fact that we say that there is like a soulmate means there's some element of the soul that finds itself,
Attractive.
with other
Wanna
with
stay,
other
wanna
soul.
stay.
Yeah. In fact, there's this concept. It's usually said about women, and maybe in the Zohar. It's definitely in the Ari and the Sefer Al-Gugol. It says that a soul will come back into earth just for the sake of its soulmate. It's already finished. It doesn't need to do anything in and of itself. It loves its soulmate and wants to be with its soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess on the Zohar's level, there's a part of the male soul also that's not finished when the person dies, vis-a-vis if it still wants to be with
Maybe he's
the
sort
woman.
of taking care of her to see that the next one is actually good. It's not good. He sort of has like
Yeah. And it's not like a rational thing so much. I'm gonna just tell you I don't know. I don't know why.
I don't think this.
And
has
then you don't
be
have to take all
rational.
this very literally, because some people
It's,
study Zohar and then they're like, okay, now like it's like Shulchan Aruch to them,
That sounds like a mistake.
It's like, anyway, let's continue.
This
Okay, should we do the note? This is the kicker. The first one repels sometimes the first one repels the second one, becoming his accuser, finally removing him from the world. Meaning it's not just that he leaves her. If he doesn't leave her, he is such a kind of snitch Accuser is a word for a kateger. It's a legal term for the prosecutor. In other words, if you have a person whose job is to prosecute you, they're going to find something on you eventually. So that's this deceased husband's job. That's going to end up sometimes making the new husband dying because we found something not so good about him. In other words, if he's a tzaddik, he has nothing to worry about. But if he's not a tzaddik, even though he's not so bad that he would ordinarily have died, but this guy's constant accusations against him do not work out, and he might die semi-prematurely. Now, the Zohar will explain
This
that.
is a very counterintuitive. It's not her. She's not the kavanas. It's that she is the vessel. The conduit.
Exactly. So this is also a little bit like another theme of other plays, the dibuk. Similar to a dibuk. So there's definitely some movie material here.
And we blame the woman for all of this.
Yes.
When the second
No.
husband died.
Well, not the woman, but the fact that
But we don't know. I mean,
we're not blaming the
We don't
woman.
know. So, you look, the second husband died.
By the third husband dying, proceed with caution.
Well, it's just, yeah, really.
You know?
It says that spirit of the first one is so strong.
It's very strong.
Don't mess with him.
It's very strong. Yeah.
Let's say
He's so
you want,
possessive.
Yeah.
sorry, let's say you want to marry a widow.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure the former soul's not hanging out?
You need to go to a super matchmaker. There are like two in the world who can analyze. There should
Call
be like
Danny
a
Man.
role like that. Like Kabbalistic.
I think it's more. I think halachically you have to only be concerned whether if two or even three husbands died. Before that you don't have to worry. You just if she loves you and you love her and everything is good, go for it. You don't have to worry about this. Like I said, not everything in the Zohar is a halacha.
Yeah, but the symbolism is kind of very
Kind of spooky.
effective because
Scaring you?
no. Well, it is kind of serious. But think about this. I mean, if just using it as a metaphor, okay, that he is always there. He hasn't left. He's still, if you want, present. You are being compared in some form or other, either by the wife.
Or by him, right?
Yeah, in other words, according to the Zohar, the reason why the wife is constantly comparing you or missing him is because it's not just her memory; it's her presence, his presence in her now.
But
Yeah.
even just as a metaphor, it works because that would be the case sociologically. A new husband would be in some ways being compared, whether by the wife or by the children.
The fact that
person.
the first husband died, and it could have, in theory, have been a decent marriage, is a problem in terms of constant comparison. You could make comparison between this is actually the opposite of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, because I'm an expert in all religions. No, I'm not. Where he says the Bible, they say that you can get a divorce and remarry, and I say that even a woman who's been divorced can't remarry. I don't know the meaning. It's like as long as the first husband's alive, she can't.
You think Jesus said this?
Yeah, he said something to that effect. He did.
It sounds like a great new area of business for a good divorce lawyer. A spiritual, Kabbalistic divorce lawyer. We will get this first soul out of her life. We promise that.
Yeah.
Better call Saul.
This is some pretty wild stuff. Yeah, Ghostbusters.
It's a whole new area of business.
Process
Yeah.
concerned with
Yeah.
surface level with
Kabbalistic law. Hey.
remarrying and so on, or is there something underneath that it's really trying to deal with in terms of like a psychological, like a competition between people, or
Well, I mean,
something
listen.
deeper.
Relationships are like really powerful stuff. Nobody wants to admit it. You don't want to make it like, whatever. Like they're good and then they don't work and then it's over. It's not the truth.
No, that's right.
We're fooling ourselves. They pull. So that's the first thing you got to know. you're putting your soul into a relationship and you're not always getting it back.
Yeah, you're not getting it, not intact.
Meaning it's a serious thing. And don't expect somebody who was in a relationship with somebody else to just get over it. It doesn't work like that, and especially if they're a widow. It doesn't work like, okay, he's dead, so why are you even thinking about him? So, I mean, obviously, if I were talking to somebody, a young couple, or, like somebody who, we're not, not even a young couple, I say young, I don't know, any couple where there was a relationship before that ended in a death, it's a super sensitive area. Because sometimes the new spouse doesn't want to talk about it. And the spouse who lost their partner doesn't know what to do about it. And it's just still there. It doesn't go away.
Like an elephant in the middle of the room.
What?
Like an elephant in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it has an effect. So that's the psychology and all that stuff. But sometimes the Zohar says spiritual things that are really a reflection, or also a reflection of a deep kind of psychological storm that a lot of people don't want to talk about, don't want to deal with. We want everything in neat lines, everything to be. We want to be engineers and relationships. Okay, that's over.
Materialists.
What better than to marry a woman who didn't have a nasty divorce? She wasn't scarred by a bitter ex-husband. Well, guess what? I had to deal with being compared to the first husband. It doesn't mean you can't marry her. It just means don't think that there is nothing, that she's starting with like a clean slate. You have to. Again, there's always scenarios obviously a little scary, but I don't think we have to be scared as much as understand the power that a relationship has, that a marriage has on the person even after the death of the spouse.
Okay. You're saying this is all allegory.
I would like to think that it can be I'm not saying it is an allegory, but it can be understood as one.
Well, I thought you were saying it's instructional but not prescriptive.
Correct. Meaning
Take
learn
this
something from it,
information
but
and-
don't take it as like definitive halacha. Yeah. Both correct. No, you're both on. Meaning,
He's right.
but I am saying
like
you
his-
could
his-
see an allegory in it. You don't have to take it at face value. And as Ben said, also it's not the halacha.
So it can help us understand why the halacha is the way it is. So, like, a Cohen shouldn't marry a divorced woman because the Cohen's supposed to be happy,
yeah,
or
interesting.
or a widow because.
So that's interesting because then we could go back and say, why is it? I have friends that are Kohanim. I mean, you guys are Kohanim. We got two Kohanim here. You're not a Kohanim. Two Kohanim here.
And
Two
we're ready to
Levis.
bless anybody who wants.
Two Levis here.
Yeah,
A number of Israelites.
And
Yeah.
To Levium.
And two Levium.
But it's a powerful method of being able to answer within yourself. Oh, someone's acting crazy. It's not them. It's like if you would put. It's like dealing with an elderly person who's lost 10% of their mental capability.
Yeah, you
It's not
start
like they're 10%
understanding.
less.
As I get
Yeah,
older, I'm
different-
so much more understanding of people who forget stuff because that would be me too. Like I'm getting it. Like,
Or phase in and out between different places.
yeah.
No, I mean it's not.
I have what to look forward to.
No, this is not. This is
Okay.
Not, this I'm sorry. This is
You
not.
might be
as-
ahead of me.
Okay, this is not as funny as it sounds. Near the end of my father's life, he believed he was back in Poland, and he thought I was his brother. Okay, so it's not ha ha.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
Interesting.
he was clearly time.
Because I didn't think
traveling.
you were in that place yet.
No,
You're
no,
like,
no.
you don't
But
hear
it
me.
was very upsetting to watch, and I
but you
didn't
could
want
see,
to
yes,
simply
at the end of
discount it.
life, people are. I visited somebody this week who one of you knows who I'm talking about, and he was talking about his parents and his brother. So it's just, his family that are all passed away, and there was no. I don't think he was really talking about them as
In the past.
in the past. That to him that was the same as the present, the future. That was where he was. But I think at that, he's nearing death, and I think his loved ones are his loved ones, and he's talking about his parents, the same as he's talking about his children, and because that's the reality, and that also is Zohar. Zohar says that before a person dies, I've seen this. My grandmother told me this. The souls of their deceased relatives come and beckon to them. I think either a month before around or something like that. And I remember my grandmother for a year before she died. She said her sister kept coming to her in dreams and says, "I'm waiting for
Oh boy.
You hear a lot of that.
Beautiful.
You hear a lot of that.
Yeah.
So
This
I heard that first from my grandmother before I studied in the Zohar. When I studied Zohar, I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
My grandmother's not the only one that I know. Other people have said.
My grandmother started
things like
dreaming
that.
about her sister and my grandfather.
Yeah.
Towards
Yeah,
the
it's
end.
very common.
This is not crazy stuff. This is real.
Yeah. So the difference is the Zohar doesn't just think it's memory; it actually thinks it's like a real thing going on.
Right.
It says
Like,
the past is not dead and buried.
yeah, according to the Zohar, some part of that relative's soul, the deceased soul, comes and beckons them. Now, it's not just a memory. We would just say, sure, you're ending.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about? You're thinking about you're not going to live anymore. Who is it that's not alive? Your parents, your sister, whatever it is that you're. But according to the Zohar, it's kind of like this.
Yeah. Well, it's like Faulkner said, the past is not the past. It's not even past.
The past is not the past. What?
It's not even past.
Oh yeah, it's not even the past. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Concerning this, we have learned that from 2 on, and that's talking about two husbands that died, a man should not marry this woman, for the angel of death is empowered within her, and inhabitants of the world do not realize that once the spirit has prevailed and defeated that one, the second spirit, from now on no one else should mingle with it. In other words, once he's gotten his way and killed, it's just he knows how to do it. You don't want to mess with him.
You definitely don't want to put that in your JDate profile.
No.
The point you want to laugh. I met a woman on
J-Date or something.
recently who said she lost 2 husbands and a boyfriend. I don't think I'm going to call her back.
Swipe so far to the left.
I don't know.
Strain
Why don't
your
we?
wrist.
Why don't we read? It's only 2. The boyfriend doesn't count. Okay. Not that he doesn't count. I'm sure he was a fine human being.
It was just passing through.
Okay. Not 153.
Give her one meeting for being
153.
That's it.
154.
Yeah, 154.
154.
Okay.
If a woman's first and second husbands both die, she's considered deadly. The hidden reason for this is the spirit of the first husband will defeat and banish any newly infused spirit, killing that new husband. See, Yavamos, if a woman was married to one husband who died and to a second one who died, to a third one she must not be married. So says Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. Rabbi Shimon, son of Gamliel, says to a third she may be married.
He's always
to a
lenient,
fourth.
that guy. We know. The fourth she can't get married to. Okay, so ask a rabbi if you have if you're in a relationship with somebody who's 2 down, is that a problem? Do we are we strict or are we more lenient? Because there's 2 opinions.
What does the Shulchan Aruch say?
That's a good question. I think Shulchan Aruch brings down both. If I'm not mistaken. They're hedging.
And that's the tradition.
On one side, on the other side.
You could always rely on Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel if you're really in love, I guess. I'll look it up. I honestly didn't know I'd have to answer this question. I know this is going to be a halachic question tonight. Okay, let's continue. Companions, I know that at this point you should object.
If
If so, the second one does not die justly and is not judged above. As this is wrong. Come and see. All accords with justice. Whether one should overcome the other or one not denounce the other. He who marries a widow is like one who sets to sea in fierce winds and hurricanes without ropes. Wow, it's like a storm, like a hurricane, and they used to have like, ropes on rivers. They'd pull the boats along by ropes. In other words, you are not in safe territory, not knowing whether he will cross safely or drown in the deep. Let's do a little more before we go back to 155. Now, if this one entering, the second spirit, the new husband, prevails and defeats the first one, that the first one leaves and goes away, where does it go? What does it become? He didn't notice. He didn't answer the question of what justice is it. First of all, he says before we talk about justice, in halacha, there's like don't go into a stormy ship. If you don't want to risk your life, don't ask God, why did the storm drown this ship that you went on when you saw the storm coming and you went on it. That's the first thing. It's like, should have been warned. We're giving him fair warning. But the second answer is going to be, he's not so perfect. He did things that were wrong. If he was okay, he wouldn't have died. But the fact that this first spirit kept prosecuting and demanding justice, that sealed his fate. Okay, let's read further. Now this one entering, the second spirit prevails and defeats the first one. The first one leaves and goes away. That's when everything ends up nicely, right? When the new husband is great, the deceased husband can't overcome him and he leaves. Where does it go and what does it become? Old man, what have you done? He's again talking to himself. You thought you would speak a little, and you have emerged here. Look, you have entered a place not entered by any other human since the days of Doeg and Achitophel formulated these questions. Amongst the 400 questions they asked about the tower flying in the air. I know it sounds like an airplane, but it's really has to do with the laws of ritual purity. And which no one answered until King Solomon came and clarified them, each one perfectly. How are we doing? What time is it? Because I do have. Okay, read note 155 and 157, please.
155 says, if the first husband's spirit expels the second husband's spirit, leading to his death, it would seem that he does not die by divine justice. However, the old man insists that God determines which spirit will prevail based presumably on merit. And then 157 says, Doeg the Edomite was King Saul's chief herdsman. Achitophel was a counselor of King David, whose advice was like an oracle sought out from God. According to Sanhedrin, Doeg and Achitophel posed 400 questions concerning a tower flying through the air. This obscure image apparently refers to a tower-shaped chest or vehicle, perhaps not directly touching the ground but supported by posts. The many questions related to the ritual purity or impurity of its contents. The old man indicates that Doeg and Achitophel's many questions about the tower flying in the air included his own questions about the wandering flying spirit of the deceased child.
Okay, so they're taking that flying tower pretty metaphorically.
But he explains the connection is because it's the same thing. His soul is up there, and he has like sort of a thread connected to her.
Nice.
It's like cute.
Okay.
So it's like literally those.
It's a similar thing.
How did they have? It's like a lot of things like that. So 400 questions.
Yeah.
Or maybe these are more positional ones.
Okay, so let's do a little bit more.
Sova.
Old man, old man. We're on 55. A supernal mystery that was concealed that you have come to reveal. What have you done, old man, old man? At first you should have watched your way, considered your start, but now is not the time to hide away. Restore your potency, the spirit that left. Where did it go? Let's go on a little further. He wept and said, companions, all those tears that I weep are not on account of you. Rather, I fear the Master of the universe. But I have revealed concealed paths without permission. But it is revealed before him that I have not acted for my own glory, nor for the glory of my Father. Rather, my desire is to serve him. That's a rabbinic statement. When somebody does something like bold, he qualifies his act and says, I'm not doing it for myself. It's not about me. It's not to make a name for myself. This is really what I need to do for the sake of God. Yeah, I've seen the glory of the one of you in that world. So now he's going to read souls. He tells one of these two rabbis, I've seen who you really are in the spiritual world. And as far as the other, I know he is the same. Meaning, I haven't seen him, but I know he's also amazing. But it was not revealed to me now. And now I see. Oh, now I see both of you. Okay, wow, that's like amazing. Okay, let's do note 159.
The old man is not weeping because the companions, Rabbi Thea and Rabbi Yossi, are unworthy to hear these secrets, but rather because he's revealing so much without divine permission. To prove their worthiness, he states that he had previously seen the glorious reward awaiting one of the two companions in the hereafter, and that just now he has seen the other's reward.
Okay, so
Rabbi Thea's future reward, see Jerusalem Talmud.
So there's actually Talmud that talks about it. Okay. Let's continue. We have learned one man is thrust away in favor of another. In various ways they are thrust. The first spirit thrusts aside in favor of the second. Where does it go? It keeps asking this question and never answering it. Sorry. That spirit leaves and roams the world unknown and goes to that person's grave. So guess what it does? It wanders the world. Then it comes to its grave, its own grave.
Is that a spirit coming to a grave?
Yeah.
Or does it enter the body in the grave?
The grave. From there it roams the world and appears to people in a dream. So then it becomes like something that shows up in people's dreams. And they see in a dream an image of that person, revealing things to them according to its way. As the spirit from which it drawn exists in that world, so this one roams revealing here. So it goes roaming the world continuously, visiting that grave until the time when spirit visits the grave of bodies. Okay, graves of bodies. So first it's just visiting the grave, and then eventually, I don't know what the difference is. It visits the graves of bodies. Then the spirit joins its spirit, which clothes itself within it, and it goes its way. Okay, so basically, at some point, it's a spirit. It's a splinter or a section of a more whole spirit, which is associated with the body of the deceased, and when it finally could reintegrate in, and it becomes like the garment for its deeper spirit, and then it goes on this merry way.
Is it going back to its own body?
Yes.
So sticking with this construct,
Yeah.
If the widow doesn't remarry, that splinter stays in the vessel,
It can stay with her, yeah.
and so it never gets back to the rest of
Till
its
she
spirit.
dies.
And then they both go back to their bodies. Is that the construct?
Yeah.
But there's nobody left by then.
Well,
Nobody that. What do you mean nobody left?
Well, there's
Body is
Luz.
disintegrated and ground.
Yeah, but it's the body is none of this is physical.
yeah.
The body is a conceptual concept here
Okay.
of what is the body? The body is really where spirit and matter are joined, where the fulfillment of where the body. Yeah, the organs of the body have decomposed, but some spiritual energy is still has some presence there. Whatever that means, it's a mystical thing.
It's a
right?
really
Yeah.
sad story, right? This story that it's so sad. It's like the sad part is your husband dies.
Yeah.
He predeceases his wife, and she basically, by getting remarried to a good person,
Yeah.
making a good choice
makes him miserable.
pushes him
Or
out.
worse.
Pushes him out, and
Yeah.
it's. I mean, it's.
That's why the Zohar, you have to
sad,
take it with a
right?
grain of salt.
Well,
Yeah,
I can't
you do.
avoid
You-
that,
you-
but I do. But
yeah.
but it's still the
I shouldn't worry. I shouldn't worry about you.
shouldn't worry about that. But the story
Yeah.
to me is like a really it's like a
It is sad.
beautiful
But
and
then
sad.
the departed husband has a process he can go through.
Yes, at some
Like,
point.
Also,
When
get
he
over it.
finally gets over, in other words, the soul. I'm gonna say something. It's not about heaven or hell all the time, but it's a tortured soul. It hasn't finished it what it wanted to do. The first story is it didn't finish because it didn't actually have children. Here it had the children, and there's still something missing in what it wanted from it. His relationship. Maybe it didn't live out its life.
People always say, "Oh, we're happy here in a better place," but it turns out that that's not really.
Not
it
for
just-
everyone.
Maybe that's what it's
not
really
even
getting
heaven and
at.
hell.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
But this
they're
is about
along their
a
process.
relationship,
Here we go.
hypothetically, that was a good one. He died. That's
In
why
theory,
he doesn't
yeah.
want to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. We have to have a sheer of what would make a soul unhappy with its, like why does it feel like it wants to stay in with his wife? Why can't it just? This doesn't happen all the time. It's not. That's the thing when you study something like this, you're like, oh no, that's going to be a problem. I got to warn my friend. But it's saying it can happen. It doesn't mean it will happen. And then the question is, what does that mean? Is it something? Is it when you have a psychological hardship? Is this a level of an explanation to it of the memory? Is the memory of a person? Is the sadness of a person about a loved one also connected to actual residue of a soul rather than just memory alone? These are, deep questions. I don't have any of the answers. Just something to think about and, explore. We'll do more. The more of this we do, the more you'll see kind of like, hopefully some balance in it.
I shouldn't not go out with this woman.